The Roman Empire had 14 Caesars, and 12 of those Caesars were homosexuals, 12 of them. And who is a Caesar? A Caesar is a title. A Caesar is not an individual. It is a description of a particular office. Just like a governor, a president is a description. Caesar was a description, and the word Caesar means sons of the gods. And that the sons of the gods do not have the moral aptitude to defend the title they were carrying, and they were homosexuals, and they dealt a lot with young boys in their days. And it was that moral decay that brought down the Roman Empire. It was the Roman Empire that conquered the Greco Empire through war. But the Roman Empire was never attacked by any other empire in the world, or any other movement, or any other military. It had to crumble because of moral decadence. So you discover that sometimes people bear titles that they are not able to defend those titles. And there is a very serious problem here in Africa. You will see somebody stand and say he's a professor, and when you want to ask him to defend what is that professorate, he's unable to even present facts and bring out proofs to defend that office he claims to carry as a title. You see someone says an apostle, some say he's a prophet, he doesn't have the capacity. Somebody says a honorable, probably is a description of an office, but you don't see honorable activities. Some say he's an engineer, and that is why we have a problem here in Africa. And I think that if we don't do serious homework to deal with some of these so much titles and conferments that we give on people, because some people just confer titles on people without being able to prove the people's ability and their capacity. So I think that is one of the serious problems we have in Africa here, and it should be brought to notice and given serious attention, that I think a title should be conferred on somebody based on an accomplishment. Like a person like Jongu Foncha, he was conferred a doctorate because of his accomplishment in the political domain. Not that you carry a title without any proof on ground. We should be giving titles after people have accomplished things, not giving men titles because they study something. A lot of people study things and we give them title, not knowing that you are supposed to be given a title after accomplishing something. Somebody should be called an engineer for doing an engineering work, not because he read engineering. Somebody should be called a honorable because he did something honorable, not because he has been voted in an honorary office. So I think all these things is as a result of the fact that we are giving people responsibility, or giving people titles without giving them the responsibility first to defend the titles they claim to be carrying. And I think it's a very serious problem in Africa.
Okay. Not yet. Do we actually weigh the weight of some of the titles we acquire? For example, I want to be an honorable. Do we measure the responsibility that is expected from us, going by those who have been conferred titles around Cameroon and Africa as a whole?
Well, we talk of leadership. A leader is someone who represents an ideology, an action, or something that has been consistent within a period of time, traceable, either good or bad. Because a leader can either be a negative leader or a positive leader. But in Africa, we have what people call accumulation of, titles. Like, you just get up, I am a doctor, I am a CEO, without you being proven. You cannot prove, you cannot back that title. That is the problem we are having.
Doctor, engineer,
that's it. You accumulate a lot of titles, a lot of posts. You cannot back them, you cannot prove them. Just because there are people that have what we call honorific titles, because you did something sporadically and they give you a title and you call yourself somebody, which is very wrong. And I think that these are one of the things that handicap the development of Africa. A lot of people do not prove the titles they have, because being a leader is for you proving something that is consistent, that has impact on a society, on a group of persons within a long period of time, that is traceable. It is very important for us to note that is the meaning of a leader. So leaders in Africa are not valuable. African leaders are not consistent. African leaders cannot prove their names or their titles, and it is very, very difficult. But when we look at the past days, the past leaders we had, they had something verifiable. If we go back to archives, we see that Nelson Mandela, Thomas Sankara, all of these people, they proved their titles. But today we have people that get up, I am a doctor. You cannot practice your doctorship. I am a lawyer. You cannot back up that lawyer. I am a teacher. You cannot transmit education. These are the things that handicap our education, that handicaps our development. And that is why we cannot evolve. We cannot develop because we are trying to use titles rather than trying to practice. And it is very important.
Very important. Dr. Munang, I don't know whether you are there. What would actually, what can we say is responsible for this mad rush for titles? Almost everybody wants to be seen as a doctor, a professor, and a host of others. Why do we think that is what will make us to be respected in our communities in Africa? Actually, what can we say is responsible for this mad rush for titles? Almost everybody wants to be seen as a doctor, a professor, and a host of others. Why do we think that is what will make us to be respected in our communities in Africa?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Liu, for that question, and to the panelists who have already contributed. Let me start by putting things in perspective, which is, if you look at the continent today, I believe that most of us grew up in communities and in families where they do farming. And me being one of them that grew up in a village where my mother farmed, when she plants corn, she harvests corn. When we plant beans, we harvest beans. I have never seen a situation where beans is planted and corn is harvested. And if you plant 2 seeds of maize, you harvest 3 cups of maize that have about almost 200 seats. Why am I trying to say this? With all the titles that we have in the continent today, we still have challenges. In 2017, the continent of Africa produced only 1,300 innovations. At the very time, Asia as an entire continent produced 600,000 innovations. And in 2021, at the apex of COVID, the continent of Africa produced 30 innovations. And out of these 30 innovations, only one of them was produced by a doctor. So why I decided to put this in perspective is that we are in a continent where we have 257 million citizens who go to bed hungry. We have over 1 billion titles. We have 12 million youth who get into the labor market every year without jobs. We have a continent that is 20 times less productive than the competitors in the global space. And at the same time, we have over 700,000 Africans who die each and every year because of indoor pollution. This then means that titles do not translate to solutions. And the reason why titles do not translate to solutions is because of what I call false satisfaction. We use titles to instead look for want, rather than devising the means to be able to address the challenges we face. We use titles for self-aggrandizement, for self-seeking. And as a result of these, we focus on the product rather than focusing on the process. And therefore, we must then be able to use these titles that we have, regardless of whatever thing that we study, to devise solutions, not to use them to carry shoulders up and speak big grammar, big English, big French, and want to be respected in society. Let me just end by saying this. Our society is to be blamed. Nobody is free or can go free with this kind of attitude. We applaud people who drive big cars. We applaud people who comes in with optics, big houses. Then society gives that impression that when you are big, when you have a big title and you walk and disrespect people, then instead you are respected. Whereas we are supposed to applaud those who devise solutions to turn community challenges into opportunities. So we must be able to start moving away from titles to now moving away from solutions. Those who devise solutions should be applauded and appreciated in society. Back to you, Mr. Liu.
You are in America as we speak, but you live in Cameroon. What is the difference that title holders in this nation and Africa that you know have made? Is there any clear difference that we benefit because of our title holders? For Richard, it's not there. Okay, Apostle Ambe Valentine Ngwa, is there a difference when you go by those, we know those who have provided solutions to problems in Cameroon. Where can we situate title holders? The professors, the doctors, the chiefs?
I think a title is an address or a description after an accomplishment. It shouldn't be a description after a study. You can study and be educated, but you're accomplishing nothing. We should get to the place of accomplishment, not the place of studies. We give people title because they studied, not because they've accomplished something. In our local communities in those days in the village, you had the best hunter. That hunter was somebody who could kill something like a lion. Somebody would come home with the head of a tiger, come with the skin of a buffalo. You discover that there were many hunters, but his accomplishment gave him that distinction as the best hunter. You go, you see the best palm wine tapper in a particular community. I'm talking about at that primitive community where people were not even educated, there were no doctorate degrees, no professors, professorship, and other degrees we have today, they were not existing. In that community where education was not even part of their normal way of life, how did we classify people? You in those communities, you had the best farmer. In some communities in Nigeria, you were the person that produced the highest tubers of yam per annum. You will discover that that person was given that description as the best man because of what he accomplished. You got the best drummer, the best flutist. These are people who had the best hunter. Now, in those communities, those descriptions came as a result of what they did, not in our modern day. Somebody has a PhD in nuclear chemistry and he hasn't produced even a grenade. And he's called a professor of nuclear chemistry. Somebody has a PhD in agronomy and he has not planted even a bed of huckleberry. He is called a professor in agronomy, which means they are now giving him the title based on what he has studied, not based on what he has accomplished so far. So I think we should get to the place, because I used to tell people that wisdom is the ability to turn knowledge into work. The acquisition of knowledge is different from the manifestation of knowledge. We should give people title based on the manifestation of knowledge, not the acquisition of knowledge. There are many persons who have acquired knowledge and they have done nothing with that knowledge. And it should be done. You have left university. You are a journalist. You are accomplishing something right now. We can say Mr. Kum Leonard is a journalist because he is at work demonstrating the knowledge he gathered somewhere. This wisdom now you are doing is no longer knowledge. There are many others who equally gathered that knowledge in university. Their documents are in a box somewhere and they are doing nothing to make sure it manifests. You cannot compare such a person with somebody who is manifesting what he has acquired. This is the reason why we say a lot of people can easily get titles, because a title comes through papers. Somebody can just get up in the morning and become a doctor because it was signed somewhere and given to him. This accomplishment is what should draw titles on people. Our primitive society, going back now to the military rank, before they will call you a captain, before they will call you a general, there are things you must have accomplished before they confer on you that rank based on what you have done so far. But these days, it's not the same. Somebody can just write a concours, enter into a school, and he comes and says, it's a commissioner. Commissioning what? Somebody comes and says, an officer of police. Officing what? Somebody comes and says, it's a captain. Captaining what? In those days, captains were not at the war front. I read a poem in my O-level, the Eve of Agincourt. Henry IV, who was the King of England, he led a group of military people into a war front and was encouraging them, which was the Eve of Agincourt. That's what they call a captain, somebody who was at the forefront to direct the forces. But this day, you can write a concours, come from Emir, and you are a captain. You've not shot one gun. You've not directed any regiment or battalion to a war front. You have not confronted any nation so far. You have not even fought even quarter fight, and you are a captain. What are you captaining? So this day, we take now academic accomplishment for entitlement, which is absolutely not correct. And that's the reason why almost everybody who is a doctor in a field falls back to teach, because the practical knowledge is not there. They end up back as lecturers, not because they have something to let them get to work to the field. If somebody should be called an agronomist, somebody who has done something practical on ground. But today we have persons who don't have degree in agronomy, but they have the biggest farms. Those are the real agronomists. The man who has planted 30 hectares of tomatoes and has first school is an agronomist. Not him that came from Harvard with a degree and a paper and cannot plant a bed of huckleberry. So these titles is so funny because and one bad thing also is that we ascertain people's intelligence based on the grammar they speak. My friend, English is a borrowed language into this country. A man that speaks in his dialect in Buddha and can produce a car is more of an engineer who can speak and articulate excellent English from Britain and cannot tie the wire of a bonnet.
Okay, but you know the professors that we have around, you know the doctors, you know the title holders, the chiefs and a host of others, the honorables. Are they making the difference in our society? Can the communities look up to and depend on them?
Well, Mr. Kum, in the Western world, yes. Because when you go out to the Western world, like in Europe, they ask you, what can you do and not who you are. But in Africa, the question is who you are. That is a title. You cannot back up a title, but you are known for that title, which is very, very delicate. A lot of people will call themselves a CEO. A CEO is someone who has an established company with workers. Well-paid workers, an establishment with command.
CEOs everywhere now.
We have CEOs everywhere. Someone is a CEO in his wallet. Someone is a doctor in his wallet. Someone is a lawyer in his wallet. What can you prove from those titles? These are the problems Africans are facing because we are not problem solvers. Because titles have overshadowed us. When you go to the Western world, they'll ask you, what can you do? It is what you can do that gives you a title. But in Africa, it's who you are that people respect you. Like I listened to the other panelists, he said that a lot of people are not solution bringers, but they are the ones that are praised. Someone who can go to the farm and produce corn is not known as an agronomist, but someone who sits in his office and employs people who can do the job.
Those who are feeding the nations, they are not awarded medals.
They are not even known. They are not known, Mr. Kum. It is very dangerous. But in the Western world, they get developed because they practice what we call, what can you do? What can you do? What can you prove? They cannot award you a title in the Western world when you cannot back up or prove what you can do. But in Africa, you can become a CEO. You can become a politician. Let's go back to politics, Mr. Kum, because I am very good in politics. A politician is someone who has an ideology, has followers, has an impact on a group of people. But in Cameroon today, we can count few politicians who have impact on people. But when we go back to the past history, archives, we have politicians who have proven themselves what? When we look at Nelson Mandela, he was given the Nobel Peace Prize. It is not because he was so handsome. It's not because he was so good. It is because he proved that word. He proved that title. He went to jail for 27 years. Patrice Lumumba, all of these people, Thomas Sankara, they proved their titles. But today in Africa, our new politicians cannot prove their titles. They cannot prove and back up their titles. They'll call you an MP of the nation. What are you MPifying? What are the impacts? Do you know your job description as an MP? An MP today in Cameroon does not know what to do. You don't know what you have to do because you are just there for a title and you use the title to influence people.
Yeah, but the micro grants that are given.
Mr. Kum, let us not go back to those micro grants because they don't make use of this. Because we cannot count the things they have done with this money. We cannot count. They are not tangible. They use this money to solve their problems, their personal problems. Meanwhile, these grants are given to create jobs, to create NGOs, to create things so that they can employ. But they use it for their personal problems. So they are not solving any problem.
Okay.
An MP in Cameroon today cannot back up that title. We have rare MPs that can back up and say, I am an MP of the nation. I represent Cameroonians at the National Assembly. I can fight for your rights. That is titles without backings.
For Richard, now, is this a problem for Africa, Cameroon particularly, where almost everybody wants to be seen as a title holder?
I don't know if you're getting me, but
yes, we are getting you.
All right, okay, fine. So I'm very getting you, but I just want to say that I want to look at this from a different perspective.
Okay.
I will be very skeptical of a balance because there are people who actually deserve their time. And it would be very wrong if we just bundle everybody with a title and we put them in the same basket of deplorable. That will be unfair. I know that a lot of people will have PhD, who did who invested a lot of time in their research, so much in their research to be able to have their PhD effective. And so if they want to be called doctor, we should not deprive them of title. Where I have a problem is where people who do not deserve those titles attribute to themselves those titles. We have a number of people who give themselves titles that they don't deserve. We have people calling themselves doctors, calling themselves professors, maybe, and to some extent they don't deserve that. Not deserving it, not like say they didn't really go through the academic process. They went through the academic process, but it didn't really do the work, because it is easy for people to plagiarize in Cameroon because we are not very strict in following up people's research, original research. And so a lot of people, especially right now in Cameroon, is a plethora of people wanting the position of doctorship, title of doctor, to the extent that they will anything to be called doctor. And so it is becoming fashion right now in Cameroon. And sometimes when you want to find out what is the original, because we used to defend a PhD, it means that you have added something to it. You have done research, and you have put in an addition to knowledge. But when you ask most of them who defend their PhD to Cameroon, you hardly find who have contributed significant to knowledge. Somebody will write a thesis, will do a research and publish a thesis on malaria infection in Ambe. Another person will see that and put it malaria infection in Atiku. Another person copied it and put it malaria infection in Ngwa, whatsoever, and just replicating the same thing and not actually adding anything to knowledge. That is a serious concern. And then the second I want to look at is the issue of attribution of title. When you have one person calling himself chief, calling himself, and all of that. So see, you describe somebody as chief doctor, and it becomes very funny. It becomes very comical. You see, I don't see how to communicate all of this. So normally, if you want to call bishop, then you give up other titles, and then you are called. If you want to be called doctor, you give up the other title. But what is that people accumulate all these titles? Like you, what I see here in titles is that I cannot even remember the normal time. Professors here reminding me, just call me by first name. And each time I call them professor or I call them doctor, they keep reminding me, no, call me by my first name or so. So what I am realizing is the more people are fascinated about titles, the more they display their worthlessness, the more they display how less important they are. And so they're struggling to get those titles and put them on their head, cover themselves around that, to cover the emptiness, so to speak. And so, like the panelists, titles go along with major contributors. If even in our communities, when they call you notable, it means that you have done something significant to contribute to the development of your community. But one of the things today is that we find chiefs carrying the title of notables in their backs and moving ancestors, and people give money
I knew you
and
would
attribute those titles to them. That is that very fortunate incident or situation that's happening in right now, Leonard.
Okay, we've just been joined by Dr. Ako John Ako. Doctor, are you also very concerned about this rush for titles and positions? How better off is Africa, Cameroon, particularly because we have acquired so many doctorate professors and engineers and a host of others?
Yeah, you remember, I want to equally let us know one thing is that when they talk of titles, we should not equally just think of academic titles.
No, academic is just one of them.
Good. So, and we should equally look at the rush for traditional titles.
There is traditional titles, there's religious titles, and all of that.
There are political titles and that academic titles. We should, one thing we should equally know is that academically everybody has a right to education. It's the United Nations Declaration, it's a natural right, and that those who acquire a particular level of academics have their titles academically bestowed on them. Now, it is a bit worrying when a lot of those titles become politically motivated. Remember, some people being appointed head of some university institutions, they will equally tell you that without such a title, you cannot head the administrative unit to which you belong. So which will mean that by obligation, you are supposed to be awarded. So that becomes very normal. We should not equally forget about honorary titles, which are given as a base of recognition regarding what others have done to the society or to humanity. There is also a lot of what we think about this. But to me, believe me or not, those who want worthwhile academically have been recognized with their various titles. Some are doing immensely. We have a problem with those who are insisting or doing little or nothing, because some need that particular title to leapfrog or to step on at a particular level in politics. You cannot talk politics with others if you are not within that particular rank. So they went in for the title, not for that purpose. Some people went in for academics because they have a reason behind, embedded in them. People start seeing that there was a need. That's why, like, I equally insist on some people. I told them, some people equally said there is no need. Some people said it is just a terminal degree. That's what others, some professionals will tell you, that going for a terminal degree is not really necessary, that they would have preferred that they stay with their master's degree in the domain in which they are. But I equally said there is a demarcation when, if you have contributed in the area in which you are involved, some titles are worth giving to others. And so we think very strongly that those who went to the University of Harvard, those who have Sorbonne, that came back, were thinking, because one of the statements, or what we call the motivational statement, the statement of research, for those who are being admitted abroad, one of the reasons they always recruit or find basis of recruiting them is that that particular area is novel and that it is new in the area, in the school concerned, and that it will be of value to those of us who are going to come back home later to implement what we have studied in those foreign universities. So, but it becomes so lacking, it becomes so shameful that those who come back later with knowledge acquired, I'm talking those from Harvard or Cambridge, who told the line of politics to support evil even when it is not, because they want to brandish a particular image and tell the international community that being at Harvard was not necessary, being at Sorbonne was not necessary. I know, generally, those who have been of the English origin, when they call you a fellow of Cambridge, a fellow of Oxford, there is that image you protect first. You protect the incarnation, the knowledge you have received from that particular environment. Individually, life does not offer everybody the same opportunity, and some people think that chasing what really wouldn't have been theirs maybe at a particular time was going to give them that image, was going to give them that largesse, that they will be known, they will be highly elated or elevated. And I think we need to really look at it. We have seen, like he just said there, a lot of other people know that from the fruits we shall know them. When you have a fake doctorate degree, it doesn't hide. There are two people I always consider in the domain of academics that their knowledge will never hide: a medical doctor and a teacher. If you are limited in your intelligence,
yes,
it will be exposed. Will you be that figure that your children, your students will talk about, admire you, anytime you're in front of them, or at the time you are coming for lectures, people simply pick their bags and they are leaving the class. You have failed. A medical doctor is equally that domain that we see a lot of responsiveness, responsibility, which is civil. And in that light, it doesn't hide. But those who come in, I used to tell people that academically, academic degrees are not professionalism. Academic degrees are vocations. They should be given to those who were rightly in that domain. But now, the system which we are in has been the one that does not favor such domains. I will be very happy that in the next few 4 months or years, some of us may be awarded a Nobel Peace Prize, not for academic generally, but in the area in which I'm involved. Is the generation after me going to learn about me? Is the generation after me going to talk more about me? This is what we call contribution to knowledge. Have you made a difference while you were there? These are things which we have kept behind when we get into academics. Titles are not really necessary. Titles, I mean, and I insist, title academically is not necessary. It is your work,
Impact.
you are doing, your expression. Can people see you and say, in that school where you are teaching, my son will study in that school? Can people really see you and say, I want you to learn something from this man. Live with him, stay with him. We are in school, we are in academic campuses. You realize that there are some lecturers, students are not even interested. If you allow university students to choose who supervises them at a particular level in academics, some teachers will go home without a candidate behind them because the students become what we call an auto-evaluation of what the teachers are doing. Your work in the domain will be evaluated by the same
students.
crops you have been watering, those that you have been feeding. The type of information that comes out from you impacts their life. It will surely equally impact the community. Some of us have tested it, and I will tell you that you should be very proud if you have that particular stamina, that capacity, that eloquism that permits you to really impact what you have done in school to the environment. We have a problem too. The problem of not getting to create an impact has become one of which is now politically made. In a lot of universities, I'll tell you in the United States, if the United States is very proud to be powerful as it is the impact research has generated. Our thesis ends on the day you defend and you are awarded a degree. Some of those theses are not even looked upon by the academic circles that be. There is a department in university, research and development. I don't know what they do there. Because if there is research and development, after a thesis, whatsoever, it can be a master's degree level. Once it is written and defended, we need to check at the value. In China, there is something we call tutor projecting. Tutor project students at the final level are grouped into heads of small business initiative. Write your project, bring over. That particular project is placed into a contest, and the best of such projects will be presented to enterprises to finance, and then you see the greatness of a nation. In Cameroon, such things, they simply award a degree, and they are stored in a cupboard for only cockroaches and maybe rats. May find the impact.
Good evening, my dear panelists. A grateful show. It's up. I appreciate the lady with you and need she's personal number, please. I'm Joseph Baba from Ghana, west of Africa. Okay. Nadia, they need your number from Ghana. Can you just write to me after the program? I'll give you Nadia's number. Good evening. I'm Chantal from Yaoundé. Thank you so much for this topic. I believe, okay. No, this is unrelated to what we are discussing here. My name is Gordon from Bamenda. I really appreciate what the man of God is saying, because Cameroon, many people carry titles that can't be proven and use them to steal tax payers' money. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Should a woman, because of, okay. I'm Joe in Yaoundé, Proverbs 21:9. Tell us that it's better to stay. Okay, I get the confusion here. There are some persons who are responding to a different program that is passing on my gospel. Yes, so there is a mix-up somewhere. Dr. Munang, are you there? Please. Okay. Yes. I want us to look at the titles that we have acquired these days. Is Africa better off with the plethora of titles we have acquired in the domains of politics, chieftaincy, from our universities? better to stay. Okay, I get the confusion here. There are some persons who are responding to a different. Hello, doctor. Seemingly you are not getting me. Dr. Munang, this question is for you. Are we better off with the acquisition of so many titles today? Apostle Ambe Valentine Ngwa, you are living in Cameroon. Almost every week, every year, we either celebrate somebody who has
already mentioned some of the aspects that I wanted to allude to. I would like to put this again in perspective and be very clear and blunt. Having titles is not the issue. And the question that you put up is about titles and positions.
Hello, doctor. Seemingly you're not getting me.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go on, go on. We get you. This question is for you. Are we better off with the acquisition of Just go on. Doctor, can you go on? Apostle Ambe Valentine Ngwa, we forced to come back to you. I would want you to react to what the question I asked earlier on.
Yeah, that is Africa better off with all these titles in the respective domains than before? You and I can see it's very glaring that there is nothing happening in Africa despite the acquisition of so many titles. I think we should be talking about works, not words.
Okay.
People should be recognized for their works and not their words.
Can we get practical in Cameroon? Those key game changers in Cameroon, what titles did they carry?
I don't see most of those guys with any title. One of the persons that has demonstrated true democracy in Cameroon is John Fundi, and he ends at Ni. His name ends at Ni. Ni is a description for respect for somebody from the Northwest province. There's no doctorate there. He has demonstrated them. I've said that I'm not a politician, but I give my analysis based on what is on ground. Any Cameroonian that don't want to acknowledge John Fundi's democratic approach to politics in this Cameroonian is a greedy person and a wicked person. John Fundi has had opportunities in this country to cause sparks and chaos in the country, but as a Democrat, he has demonstrated true democracy. And we don't see any doctor or professor attached to his title. He remains Ni John Fundi. Another aspect in Cameroon is that people like Bernard Fallon, who did so much in the country, they were not even addressed with their names, with their title, despite their accomplishment. Everybody knows Bernard Fallon, but he was one of the most intelligent Cameroonians that did so much to the extent where the national anthem, you and I know he played a very pivotal role for the Anglophones when it comes to the national anthem. Going to Professor Lantum, he did so much in the medical domain. Even though he was a professor, I'm talking about those who had titles and did so much on ground. They accomplished so many things. If we try to distribute this thing in the political domain, the ecclesiastical domain, and all the rest, you will discover that a few individuals who accomplish so much in their respective domains, most of them not go along with title, even though some people who had title equally had a lot of accomplishment. Coming to the religious or the ecclesiastical domain, we have Christian Cardinal Tumi. Christian Cardinal Tumi did so much to crusade for peace in this country, and he did so much to try to reconcile issues, even though time was not there for him to accomplish that. And if you look, more of what I'm saying is that we should focus on people's works than their words.
In the domain of economics, we have the likes of Jean Tassa.
Yes, who did so much, yes. Coming out to the economic domain, we had people like Fosso Victor. He had no title. We had Kaji de Fosso. They had no title. We have Sorepko, the Sorepko today, the Focus, they don't have any title. The Kojinis don't have any title. Those are men who have boosted up the economy of this country in the domain of economics. They don't have titles in those domains. Let's go to the domain of politics. We have mentioned the case of Nijon Frundi. Let's come to the ecclesiastical domain. We have spoken the case of Christian Cardinal Tumi and other servants of God in the country also have accomplished. So look at the moderator of PCC right now. He has accomplished a lot of projects than any moderator of PCC. Now like this, but you don't see any title in his name. It's simple as ABC. Yes, it's as simple as ABC. So what we are trying to say is there's a lot of problem with people who are carrying titles. I said once, and I said, if at all we go after the works of men than the words of men, we will know what we have in the society. There are men who don't have words, but they have works. And there are others who have no works, they have words. And there is this deception that when you have words, you are better off than him that has works. And if we don't go after works, we will keep on praising men who have words than those who have works. In Cameroon, you are considered an intelligent man because you are able to speak perfect English, not because you are able to construct a car. You are considered intelligent in Cameroon because you are able to articulate grammar effectively, not because you are able to plan a farm of rubber. We have Dr. V. Muketa, who is of late, peace to you, so Senator V. Muketa, who is of late, peace to you. So he accomplished so much in the economic domain, the Anglophone sector of the country, but there was no doctorate in his title. There was no particular title on his name, apart from the fact that he was a traditional ruler. Those are people who have done a lot of things. I know some Anglophone elites who do not even have titles, but they did so much in their community and accomplished so much within their stay on earth. So I want us to understand that as much as we are not against titles, as much as we do not insult those who have titles, we are trying to make us understand that we should focus more on our works than our words. A lot of words all over the place. A lot of words. People are talking. When somebody stands and makes an excellent speech, they consider him to be an intelligent man. And there are men who are very, very, I repeat, very, very quiet in nature. They don't speak, but they act more. Their results are very, very practical on ground. Say Mala in Dawara, Alaji Badampulu. He has accomplished so much, a lot when it comes to the economic domain. And that's the richest man in Central Africa as at now, with a sum of at least $100 million. That's Ndawara. That's a man that does not have any title, either from the ecclesiastical domain, political domain, or whatever academic domain. But that's a man who has done so much. So it's to let you understand that it is not the title, it's the works. Let's go after the works, not the words. Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Liu. I tell you, Apostle Ambe is the best. Daniel is writing from Libreville in Gabon. This one reads, good evening, Mr. Liu, and all in the panel. I'm enjoying the program. Stefan is writing from Yaoundé. Good evening, Mr. Liu, to all the panelists. My name is Ashu David, writing from Limbe. I agree with Dr. Ako, and I think that we should equally look with non-title holders are doing. I think that if we don't make that comparison, we can't authoritatively blast titles. No, nobody's blasting titles. We're talking about what title holders should be doing. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I'm Valentine Chawanu. I wish to know the use of the title given to dead people and retired public civil servants, because when they were in active service, they were never recognized with these titles. Permit me to greet all the Mbakundu family groups in Kumba, Yaoundé, Boya, and those in the village. Good evening to you. I have watched your program in television now about marriage. My name is Godwin, writing from Togo. Good evening to you, Godwin from Togo. Good evening to all the panelists in the studio. The more effective you are in life, the less titles you need. Godwill Fru is writing from Yaoundé. Good evening, Mr. Liu. In Africa and Cameroon, people look for paper or degree without having the ability to do a job or have the knowledge to help the community from its situation. Emmanuel is writing from Limbe. Good day to you and the panelists, Mr. Liu. Dr. Ako lectures, certainly. His presentation now, likewise, that of Apostle Ambe. He, Dr. Ako, has proposed it at the right quarters. Question: why do we Africans don't put it into practice? What is blocking our leaders from motivating and supervising the process of sustainable development in Africa? Look at roads in Europe, so clean. Look at salaries in Europe and the low-cost housing there compared to us here. Yet we visit and don't copy. It's painful. Ngala is writing from Boya. Good evening to you, Ngala. Now, what is causing, Dr. Richard, in Kenya, what is causing our African title holders not to deliver? Doctor, I was trying to indicate to him that it's on the screen. For Richard, are you there? Yes. Okay, go on. Title holders not to deliver.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Lowe. And let me start from what I ended before the connection here. One of the issue is, like I started saying, its titles are not the issue, and I think the panelists have alluded to this. What is the issue is the motive. What do people want to get titles for and positions? Let me shift away from titles and then answer your question as I put this in perspective. When people get positions, what do they do with those positions? When they get the positions, we clap. When they get the positions, they clap. And when they're clapping, what does that mean? It means that they are glorifying that position. But when the person is in that position, what happens? Everything is forgotten. The discussion around the impact the person is making in that position from the very society that gave the person a round of applause disappears. So we nurture an attitude in society that glorifies just optics rather than impact. And now when it comes to positions, the question should be, are positions given based on impact or not? And we have our mothers and we call them mom. We even call others our mothers who are not our mothers based on the contribution that they've contributed both to the lives of people who are not even their children and the community. So they earn titles through what they do. So I think what we need to be discussing now is not just about the diagnosis or the titles' impact in the continent, whether they've happened or not, because the reason why the titles keep getting proliferated are because they're being glorified. So we need to ask, what kind of a paradigm shift do we need now? And one of them is that when we glorify these titles, we carry shoulders, and as a result of that, we don't listen to advice. Most of the people with positions, when we get a higher position, we think that we can walk on top of people. Instead, we're supposed to use those positions to be of service to community, service to society. And as a result of that, solve problems beyond our immediate family members.
Yeah.
That then means that we need to start nurturing young people to know that at least when you listen to advice, you can be mentored. And when you're a mentor, you can be able to do something that touches society, not all carrying shoulders up and complaining all the time. The second aspect is, we cannot be able to use those titles or positions if we are not passionate. Self-drive is what I call the currency of now. It is the new currency. Without self-drive, regardless of which title or which position we get, we cannot be able to make impact. I believe that the panelists that are here today, they came here not because they were coming to gain anything, but they came to share knowledge. And I believe that, Leonard, you invited them because they had value. So with passion and self-drive to develop value, you'll be needed. And as a result of that, you may even be given a title that is worth it. The other aspect, which is very, very important, is purpose. What are we useful for? If we do not look at the aspect of being useful in community, which is actually the purpose of life, because to be useful, to do something, to touch, to turn the challenges that I mentioned, challenges of food insecurity, challenges of water access in communities, of ensuring that we can be able to create opportunities for people beyond our immediate circle. If we do not find that purpose, regardless of which position we get or which title we are given, then we will not be able to make impact. And the last aspect is, how do we focus on the process to get a product rather than the product? Because most of the reason why these titles are given is because people focus on wants. And I want to end by saying that the reason why we are in Africa where titles are not having impact, they are not having impact, and positions are not really having impact, is because we ignore what needs to be done to solve problems and focus on what we want. We want the product rather than being part of the process. And this is an attitude that has been ingrained in us for quite a very long time, and we carry those attitudes to places where we are given opportunities, to places where we have to actually make a change in other people's lives. And so when we now talk about these issues as if they can be wiped away just like that, it will not happen. So what we need to start doing now is inspiring people, because Africa doesn't lack ideas, Africa doesn't lack innovations, Africa lacks incentives. And some of the incentives is to start appreciating and rewarding those who are turning challenges into opportunities, starting from our mothers in the communities, starting from the youth across the continent, that we are seeing them developing solutions to the challenges that are facing the continent. We are seeing them developing information communication technology. We are seeing them turning environmental challenges into opportunities, turning agricultural waste into fuel briquettes. So when we match titles now to impact, they will become meaningful and they will contribute as an incentive to Africa's transformational development. If we don't do that, we will continuously chase these titles, not for impact, but for self-aggrandizement, which is the selfishness that is actually retrogressing the continent. Over to you.
Eloquent and intelligent panelists. In fact, I'm so delighted and proud that such a sensitive topic is brought. I also want to say that the government should include career orientation as a compulsory subject from secondary schools upwards, so that students will know and can be guided through their studies. To some extent, there are so many graduates in Cameroon who are just a waste. Time, energy, and money spent for not being productive. The world today needs people who are skillful and not people with big titles who lazy around in air-conditioned rooms with nothing to show for. Today's development slogan is, what can you do and not what do you have? Prince Bile is writing from Berlin in Germany. For which I don't know whether you followed Prince Bile's contribution, but many persons are just going to school for going sake. They want to have the first degree, the master's degree, and the PhD, not necessarily because they are doing that to solve particular issues in our communities.
Yeah, Leonard.
Yes, go on. You're on.
All right. Thank you. So, yeah, I think Dr. Richard, the panelist with Kenya, made some very, very pertinent points that I would just want to build on to cite a few examples in Cameroon, because we have a situation in Cameroon where I want to pick on the members of parliament most specifically, because carry the high sounding titles of honorable. And who is an honorable, who is a member of parliament? Member of parliament, his role is that making law. And even this issue we talk about micro project grants, that is not the job of parliament. That is the job of the executive branch. The parliament not laws. They make laws. And the point I want to make is that we have so many members of parliament who have never for 1 second raised their voice. They spent 5 years in parliament and they have not for once raised their voice in parliament. But you have them call themselves honorable all over the place. And they want to be called that huge title of honorable. But not for once have they ever even authored a bill. The Constitution gives them the mandate, gives them the right to initiate bill, what is called private bills. But you have people who will campaign vigorously to be elected, not for the fact that they want to go and serve, but for two things, for the money and for the title of honorable. They do nothing, absolutely nothing. I remember I watched one of them on CRTV who said they were waiting for bills to come to the presidency. They were waiting for the government to send the bill. And that for now, they have nothing doing, which means they virtually do not have anything doing. They sit in parliament for 5 long years. You cannot be in parliament for 5 years and not for once have you go up to the restroom and utter a voice or say something. We have the current situation that is happening in Northwest and Southwest region. We are looking up to members of parliament, take up this issue in parliament. They will not do so. That is one group of people. Then we have the group of intellectuals with all these big titles that we have. Not one of them will initiate a concrete solution to the problem that we're having. We will not have them take up some initiative, because when you hear of people, you call people doctors, you call people professors. These are highly respected people in society. These are the intellectual class. These are the people to whom the rest of the nation rely. We are hoping that they will even approach the president. They will even send out even a strongly worded letter, open letter to the president to say that this is the situation, this is what was a solution to this problem, and all of that. They are quiet. And a few of them who want to utter something, want to say what, they're saying it to praise the regime, because they're hoping that somehow the regime could appoint them to some position of responsibility. So we have a situation where people pick up titles, not because they want to use these titles to help the country. They don't want to use this to help their community, but they pick up this title because they want their community to look up to them. They want the community to respect them, and they are picking up this title because they are hoping to pick up appointments with the government. Appointments that even when they occupy those positions, they will not even be able to prove their worth, that they are people who have, because when you hear somebody has a prophecy, and then you hear that person occupies the position of minister, you will expect that the ministerial department will be the best. It will be that initiate innovative ideas, innovative solutions, problems that we are facing in the country. But they will go there, and the first thing they do is to organize home camping. The next thing they will do, they will throw parties in their appointment. I remember if one of those professors were asked, to what do you owe an appointment? And he said he owed it to total submission and total loyalty to the president of the republic. That these are the kind of people who parade our chief with big titles, but who do not really create impact to the community.
Even though there is BB, I think it's not the child's fault, so it's forgive, but it happens again. Okay. People are reacting to something else. Good evening, Mr. Leo, and your panelists. I concur with you, Apostle Ambe, Valentine. The case of our country, Cameroon, is very alarming. We are confused on what to address our people on. Kevin Kenneth is writing from Douala. Yes, we don't know whether they are doctors or they are chiefs or they are professors or they are apostles. So, good evening, Mr. Leo. I have been watching your programs and they are very interesting. I love them. Keep up. I'm Flora, writing from Jotin. Good evening to you, Flora. Hope Jotin is doing well this evening. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Is Sylvester from Bonaberry. I enjoy your program very much. Please, for Apostle Ambe's number, for those who want the numbers of those in the studio here, please write to me after the program. Greetings, please. Let girls come in with their husbands and boys bring in their wives from outside. Yes. Good evening, Mr. Liu, and all of you in the studio. I really love your program. It's educating, sir. What I'm confused at is the way... yes. Let me get to you now, Doctor. What should be done? How do we get our title holders to be effective?
It may be very difficult to answer that.
Okay.
Because when you look at it academically, from the origin of titles, some people know the purpose for which they seek their title.
Okay.
It's what we are arguing here.
Okay.
Politically, some people need their titles to jump over into politics.
So, yeah.
So when that particular achievement is handed to them, they sound glorified. They sound certified. It's just like you see the presentation of those who want to go for parliament. Your intention at all costs is to be a member of parliament and be called honorable. It's to be the senator. Once you have given the position of a senator, what people don't know is that the political climate in Cameroon is quite different. There's what they call at the level of the civilian party discipline. So you don't do what the party has asked you and haven't asked you to do. So you toe the lines. That is why some people, when you watch at the parliament, a debate is going on, so except you are a member of the finance committee, you are not supposed to talk because you were not there when these things were discussed. Except you are in the commission in charge with diplomacy, external relations. That is when you will talk. And so when you find it, those of us who are academically oriented, we said the Cameroonian lawmakers or legislator is a rubber-stamped legislator. These guys are dictated. We don't want again to get into what we call today traditional title, where politics are engulfed every sort of socio-economic political life of the whole continent. Some people go to the village, since he is a minister from his constituency, he wants to be the chief of the village, to order everybody to align to that particular political party. What else impact do you want him again to create? He will equally write a positive pass to his party that while I was a chief and same minister, I gave you 100%. And that is what will keep him there as long as he remains a minister. That is just the accountability. A lot again, you see in some places today where others have moved on. In Nigeria, people have awarded some traditional titles regarding the impact they have created in the community, which today has become very positive. So people want to tell you that if you come Unoku 1, 2 of Ngwa village, people look behind and they know how many boys he has trained in his domain. They don't want to know whether the government has awarded you a degree or the government has awarded a honorary certificate or what. That is not what the tradition, the notables are looking at. What contribution have you impacted? Which means that if the Cameroonians want to jump over, it is time for us instead first to get these people sensitized. Once you are awarded a title, that is why you, in some communities, even throughout in Europe, when you misbehave, after a certificate has been awarded to you by any institution, if you cannot align, they will announce it internationally that this particular certificate that was given to you has been withheld. And that nobody should even address you again by your title because you don't merit that image. People have been awarded a Nobel Peace Prize, and you have seen that after some time when they misbehave politically, socially, culturally, it is withdrawn. Which means titles must befit impact. To what extent can your title be used to transform the life of your community and those around you? If we don't, I'm telling you, even you can imagine today why people said education does not really matter today. Because we have become so desperate. People go in for bachelor's degree, and I ask my student, your father ended with an ordinary level. He's been feeding you. He got married to your mother when he was 27. You are 35. You are still waiting for transport from the Panda to Omispo. You are waiting transport from Bonamusani. You want airtime. You ask your mother for 20. You have a bachelor's degree, for Christ's sake. This is an insult. Insult academically. And I believe after some time, those who have come to pass around us are beginning to see that they are supposed to step over more than their father. I said, if your father, who had an ordinary level, lives in a castle, and you are proud of feeding the dogs within that castle, you are unable to feed a fowl.
With a master's degree.
Imagine that. I said, you have failed your father. Your father will be very happy that where you live, 10 years after, take him, say, Daddy, I just wanted to surprise you. I made this. And your father can look at, don't even be very proud, because a lot of people use titles from their ancestors and tell you that my brother is a PhD, he's a professor. And so the guy plots around. The guy going to school, he has a master's degree. My brother will give me jobs, so anything I'll wait after him. You must be creative. To what extent, as your new level, even empowering yourself? Because if we have to impact the community, titles should be capable of impacting change. A lot of title holders always think in Africa that they have arrived the point they intended, and so the achievement is employment. Apostle Ambe will tell you, those who own PhD want to teach in the university. So without being recruited in the university, you are no longer productive. So you must beg. And after that, we must write a motion of support and congratulate the head of state for recruiting us. That is a destroying element of African intelligence. Some of us will not agree. You remain useful no matter. You don't need an institution to tell you. You must be evaluated by that level. It is not by chance. Others are not giving that level. You started school 30 years ago, 30 years after, you have PhD order. Others ended with advanced level. What impact have you created? What do those people that ended with advanced, how do they see you? When they see you academic in your domain, prove it. So, I mean, in Africa now, we have to push further that those, like he called, it is already happening in Europe. Those who have impacted the community, like the Bill Gates, we have called them the fathers of Microsoft. When you go to the Steve Jobs, we are talking about Mark Zuckerberg or Facebook. They don't need a further degree. Their governments and countries have recognized them already with a lot of titles, looking at the impact they have created in the domain. So we need to step up also that really you need not be in the domain, you need not go to academics. Yes, in European Union, there are years when you have impacted in a particular domain for about 7 years. They tell you it's equivalent to a master's degree. When you have been in that domain for 15 years, it's equivalent to a PhD in that domain. And they award it to you.
Okay.
So this is what maybe we need to get on.
Good evening to you guys out there. I'm really enjoying the program. Keep it up. Good work and stay blessed. I'm Clinton, writing from Yaoundé. Good evening to you, Clinton. Good evening, Mr. Leo. We're enjoying the program. Thank you very much for enjoying the program. What does our environment need from us, the Africans, so that we can better live in it? What is our government policy all about? Does our government policy favor our African area? What is our African sociocultural status? Maybe we are still a colonized people. What can be the explanation behind our crude oil not filtered here? Rather, we choose to import filtered fuel. Do our guidance counselors in schools do their job freely, or is it freedom of press yet not free? Okay, so many unanswered questions there. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Yaoundé is out for titles for their members since independence, but the result of the big title is seen with the worst governance compared to the Fonchas and Ahijo's time. At least the big titles came up with decentralization, but since their own titles are misused, they don't even permit the implementation of a simple decentralization. All professors and doctors are useful in universities and chiefs in villages and engineers in their field of activities. Max Begini, writing from Dusseldorf in Germany. Good evening, Mr. Liu. My name is Atango, writing from Bamenda. I have been a member of this program for about 8 months. This is my first time to write about the titles in Cameroon. If we can advise our professor to come out with something creative, means they have the right to their titles. Okay. Yes. They have a right to their titles. This one says, good evening to the house. I like your program, sir. How will they deliver when they are there for their personal interest? Felix from Meganga. So it is not all about titles. I will move straight to our second topic. We're talking about servant leadership. Who is a leader? Nadia.
A leader is someone who has an ideology that has an impact on a group of people or a community for a consistent period of time.
Okay.
Like we're talking about, you know, titles. It goes in relation with the
leadership.
topic. Yes, because I wanted to say something about the Africans and the adoption of new concepts. You know, Africans have the problem of adopting new concepts. The concept of gender equality came, people misused it and misunderstood it.
Democracy
today we
also.
have democracy, and today we are having the concept of title gratification. People will use titles to influence people. People will use title to gain some kind of purity. People will use title to gain some kind of fame, which is very wrong. When we talk about having a title, we talk about an impact. What have you created? What have you done? People have seen. A lot of people fail to solve the problem of what can I do? But instead they go for who are you? A lot of people, like, let's go back to our political scene in Cameroon. Most politicians, when they want to get into parliament, like Apostle Ambe said, they want to have a title. like a doctor. If you're not a doctor, you sit on a panel, they have to call you a doctor before you'll be known as somebody who can create an impact. If you're not a CEO, you cannot be influential in the economic domain. You know, a lot of people are so, driven by title and they forget to create the impact. And it is very dangerous for our African society. Africans fail to develop themselves because they have misunderstood the whole concept of, getting the title gratification. Because when you have a title, you are supposed to prove. You're supposed to prove the works. You're supposed to prove that within a consistent period of time. Like our co-panelist said, in the Western world, when you have a title and you cannot consistently back it up, it can be removed. But in Africa, you can just have a title sitting in your room. In Africa, you can have a title sleeping in your bed because you know someone who can call someone and you're given a title, which is a very big problem. And coming back to the concept of leadership, a leader is someone who creates an impact on people, on a group of people, or has an ideology that can be followed and traceable within a long period of time. But today in Africa, leaders are people who proclaim themselves as leaders. They cannot prove their words. They cannot, have some kind of traceable actions that make them leaders. Because a leader is someone who can be able to have something that has been archived for a period of time. A leader is someone who can be able to prove an action. A leader is someone who has a fixed ideology, like a political leader. We have political parties. Those are political ideologies that are fixed. But in Africa today, our leaders are just any kind of a person. I am a politician, I'm a political leader, but what have you done in the political field? I am an economic leader. What impact have you created in the economic domain? I'm a social leader. What are the social aspects have you proven for you to be called a leader? I'm a religious leader. What have you done? These are the things that make us really misunderstand the whole concept of being a leader and a title holder, which is very, very dangerous in the African nature. Because when we relate to the Western world, the Westerners do not relate themselves to titles. But Africans, they give so much value to titles. Somebody will come in, do you know who I am? That's the question he asks you. Do you know who I am? What have you done for you to be known? That's the question. What have you done? What can you prove? Mm-hmm. But you said, do you know who I am? I am a doctor. I am an MP. I am a CEO. I am a teacher. I am an engineer. But you cannot prove your actions.
Okay. Greetings to all the wonderful panelists. Kudos to Dr. Ako. You have said it all. All titles should go with character and impact. The fan club is enjoying the program. Emmanuel is writing from Tole. Good evening to all of you guys watching us from Tole. Good evening to all in the studio. I am Claudine Ne, writing from Bamenda. The program is interesting. The main problem with those carrying undeserved titles is bribery and corruption, in the sense that those who have money have the access to bribe to be given these titles, while those who are competent do not have the access to be given these titles due to lack of money to bribe. So our government should focus on those who are theoretically and are competent in their various fields, rather than focusing on bribery. Thank you very much. Good evening, Uncle Leo. I'm Pastor Mukiawa Daniel Anya from Bonaberi. Leadership in Africa is a thing of interest. People get into leadership positions to make some money for themselves and not to improve the society. That's why the voices of the less privileged means nothing to them. We are talking about servant leadership. Want us to go to the Bible, where Jesus told his disciples that he who wants to be the greatest, should should play the role of the least, right? Amongst you. And he's talking about the motivations for leadership. Not necessarily to...
Yeah, what he was trying to say in that scriptures, leadership is the capacity to take people ahead, not being the head.
Okay.
There are so many people who are the head, they are not going ahead. The ability to take people ahead is leadership, not being the head. But what we have in this continent, Africa, are people who are fighting to be the head. Even if they are not going ahead, they just want to be the head. So we have a lot of head of states, head of organizations, head of corporations. Instead, we're supposed to have a head of state, a head of corporations, a head of organizations. Leadership is the capacity to empower, not to get power. What we are getting in Africa here is men who are looking for power, not the ability to empower. Jesus came on earth, he wasn't looking for power, he was power personified. What he did was to take 12 confused men, empower them to the extent that when he left, the impact was there. You are not a leader when you are around. You are a leader when you are absent. Because leadership is to duplicate your skill and your capacity in the lives of others. Leadership is not manipulation, it's inspiration. What we have in Cameroon and other parts of Africa is manipulation. People manipulate their way to the top. They don't inspire people who can put them at the top. Here is bribery, here is corruption, here is schemes, here is all kinds of schemes they use to climb to the top, of which leadership is supposed to inspire people. There is a book written by Steve Harvey. Steve Harvey said, think like a man and act like a woman. Think like a man and act like a woman. It means men are logical, women are influential. Leadership is a capacity to influence. And then another outstanding definition of leadership is being the lead in your domain. For instance, in 1986, Wole Soyinka received the Nobel Peace Prize in Literature. He was a leader in the domain of literature. In 1994, Wangari Maathai from Kenya received Nobel Peace Prize. In 2019, Ambe received Nobel Peace Prize in the area of peace settlement. What we are saying is being distinguished in your field of influence. Leadership is not heading people, it's being outstanding in a particular domain. So you cannot say you are a leader because you are leading Cameroon. You are a leader because you distinguish yourself in the field of journalism. You are a leader because you distinguish yourself in the field of law. You are a leader because you are in engineering. So somebody cannot be a general leader. You be a leader because you are distinguishing yourself in a particular field, being extraordinary in a particular domain. Dr. Ako John can be a leader in the domain of law. I can be a leader in the domain of the ecclesiastical sector. You can be a leader. So leadership is not the ability to be the head. It's the capacity to take a movement ahead. And we have a lot of head of families that are not taking the family ahead. We have a lot of head of states who have kept the nation stagnant. We have the head of corporations who are not going anywhere. What happened to Richard Branson? Richard Branson took his son that had a master's degree in economics and placed him the president of Virgin Airlines. The young boy did not start from the cargo base to study the business and climb to the top. They kept him at the top and he crumbled the business because why? He couldn't take the business ahead, but he was ahead. So sometimes these people we appoint in offices who have not had practical experience on ground on how to drive a nation or a corporation is failure. That's the reason why to me they should stop elections. They should look men who have taken $100 and turned it to a multi-million organization. That's a man that can turn something from zero to a hero. We should be looking men in the nation who didn't go to school like Fosso Victor and attended economic classes and took businesses from nothing to something. A man that can manage an enterprise can manage a nation because the same skill. Look at mayors who we have given council that had nothing, and then look at the impact of the council after some years. Such men are competent to rule. So it is politics that destroy true leadership, because politics is manipulating your way to the top, while leadership is inspiring men who carry you to the top.
Okay, Dr. Munang, if you are there, what is the problem with African leadership? How do we get 7 leaders in Africa?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Leo. I appreciate the debate, especially around leadership. I think one of the issues that we need to look at before I actually your question is that we talk about leadership as if the people who become leaders come from space. Leaders come from the very society and even from our homes. And so the way leadership has been framed is that some people are leaders and some people are not supposed to be leaders. Everybody is supposed to be a leader because leadership is personal responsibility. Leadership is passion. Leadership is vision. Leadership is the ability to be able to do that touches other people's lives. And so we cannot effectively discuss that discuss passion and vision. But once an individual lacks these aspects, and I call them transformational tenets, then he or she cannot be able to lead you So the starting point is that you look across the entire African continent, we have been created with this narrative that leadership is someone else's responsibility, rather than leadership being part and parcel of every citizen, the 1.3 billion citizens across the entire African continent today. So the manifestation of the leadership you see, not only in political spaces, but in every sphere of life, whether we're talking academia, whether we're talking business, private sector, government, policy, is the result of attitudes that society has grown for a long time. So what I always say is that we need to diagnose the problem of leadership, not midstream, upstream. And what is the problem? Is the attitude that something for us. It is the attitude that we be able to have 3 square meals a week, have a shelter, and then complain more than any other person. Actually, there is research that was done this year that actually shows that Africa, which constitutes 16% of the entire global population, is on part of the world, especially sub-Saharan. People complain about yes, which is true. They complain about lack of yes, which is true. They complain about infrastructure, yes, which is true. But the miss after complaining all those things is what needs to be done from themselves as individual citizens to be able to provide solutions. They blame someone else as they put their arms and sit and wait for a manner to come from heaven. So the point is that we should be able to become leaders on right, because if you are a leader in on right, is starting yourself. If you are given that position of responsibility, you will not be able to become a leader on right. And that is why it is important that we start to develop this self-discipline like an organism. We start to develop to that self-discipline to do that which is right, not because it is convenient. We cannot be able to nurture leaders that lead the continent today. The aspect of it is vision of an eagle. An eagle is 2 to 3, 4 kilometers away. We don't start to nurture our young people to start to know that at least we want to develop what we call on board vision. And I use it because you ask someone, what do you want to do? Always say, I want to become a billionaire. Then you say, what are you doing now to become that? Government is not doing it. And therefore, it's behoves to say that we miss the point of leadership by discussing leadership mainstream rather than starting upstream, so that at least we can start to talk about the tenet, passion.
I'll come over to you, Nzi, for Richard. We are talking of a leadership crisis in Africa. Is Africa not also responsible for the quality of leadership that exists in the continent? Are we not responsible for that?
The leadership. Yeah, we do that. Yeah, I will want to disagree a little bit with some of the comments that the others have raised. Particularly, I want to differ with what Dr. Richard mentioned when he said everybody can be a leader. Yes, irrespective of how you define the word leadership, you can't deny that certain individuals can greatly impact the lives of others based on their experience and insight. And also, I think Apostle Ambe on the fact that we would begin to build a country that have been, like he mentioned, people and all. It is true that for you to succeed in business, you need great leadership. But there is a difference in leadership at the level of business cycle and political leadership. They totally different game altogether. And you experience the political leadership to be able to handle that. Having said that, I would want to join others to say that there is a clear difference between authority and a leader. When we have in most cases are people authority. People who have authority. And in most cases, as we have seen in the experience, most of these people do not show leadership in the way they manage their country, the way they manage ministerial practices and all of that. They have to show leadership. I want to cite of what I feel like a leadership. First thing is, like many of us have mentioned, is that the leader has to be visionary. Being visionary means that he has to be able to identify that it's a problem here, and should be able to find ways of stop that problem. And it's that problem, it needs to have the ability to bring in the kind of people with whom it work have that problem solved. Then we also have the aspect of accountability. A leadership who is accountable, somebody who is willing to be open to have him question as to how he is carrying himself and how he's doing the job that he has done. If you are not accountable, you give you the responsibility a certain position, and you are not.
Okay, we have issues with sound there with for Richard coming in from the United States of America. Dr. Aku, John Aku, they raised the issue of accountability, the issue of vision, and you listen to Dr. Richard, who also came in from Kenya. Where is Africa's problem in all of this?
One of the things which if we need to understand who a leader is, then we should know that a lot of leaders in Africa are called puppets.
Okay.
They are called puppets because those who lead the nation were dictated far from the continent, and at times decisions made within a coffee house. Some people's decisions were made around a bar, others were made on a bottle of whiskey. That we are aware that the impact of colonization remains a true consequence of the present African behavior. Leadership has within itself that a leader should be hailed. Leadership is awarded. In fact, awarded by the people, not declared. Leadership is something that comes within, not from without, which means that leaders, as we call them, have within them a character of what we call humility. You are called to be served, you are called to serve, not to be served, which means that in a leadership position, we are the least. We are the least. You ask yourself, not who you are. Ask yourself, who are you to the people? Don't ask, who are you? Who are you? Who am I? What have I done? Not what the people have done. You will find somewhere, which I concur with one time, a former US president asks not what your nation has done to you, but what you have done to the nation. It is very simple. A leader should be somebody who is leading us to a particular direction, not the one that is declared upon us. This is the problem in Africa. Elections are organized because somebody thinks and feels that he was a candidate of the Sorbonne Academy, and since Sorbonne is a French base, Cameroon is a French territory, so that person is suited for the job. When you look at nations where leaders develop within, I'm talking of John Pombe Magufuli of Tanzania, that it never took some time for an impact of a leader to be felt. Just the first mandate, the leader delivered. The leader should be one that has a vision for the nation. We don't glorify him. We need no protocol. We need no security. We need no armored cars to take a leader to his people. The moment you find leaders that are being guarded with arms, weapons, machinery, special military flight or jets, they are imposed leaders. Look at the dressing. I remember that Africans, there is one, Nelson Mandela, that said he preferred his simple shirt sewn by a South African tailor than an imported British fabric. Well, we believe that, okay, when you wear a suit, you're the most respectable. That is leadership in Africa. Very few leaders dress in locally made material but they prefer that imported. And they'll tell you that it was the last time I was in Paris that particular suit was bought. I was in California and this shirt was bought. We have this within us that we are even unable to deliver within ourselves. Those who are not leaders consume from outside. A true leader eat from the same plate with his people. This is what Jesus taught us. If we get on biblically, those are some of the basic aspects. When people keep on feeding hospital bills abroad, hotel bills abroad, tourism abroad, it is an indication that they are really not leaders. A leader grow within, develop within, makes things that you need to be accessible to everybody. This is what we call leadership. Leadership should be that individual, that the same water the citizens are drinking, it is the same water I consume in my home. You don't give citizens water which you don't consume, then you import mineral water from abroad. The beans we prepare are local tomato. No, you bring ketchup imported from a French fine restaurant. It is really not done. Within a lot of systems, I think that we need to define the next generation of African leaders. And if African leaders need to be what we think, we need to decolonize our brain. To stand and get on a nation, a continent, will start from changing the mindset of future leaders. And I believe it will come on to pass. Leadership is not dictated.
Okay.
Leadership is not declared. It is groomed and grown within.
Good evening once again, Mr. Leo. Well, to my opinion, the essence of leadership mindset is to be able to lead with the principle of generative succession, for there is no such thing as success without succession. A transformational leadership is not a dream of a lifetime, but a dream of for lifetime. Secondly, leadership is influence, and the easiest way to grace influence is to solve problems. Prince Peter, writing there from Germany. Good evening to you, Prince. A leader is someone who inspires passion and motivation, motivates its followers. A leader can also be someone who ensures their team has support and tools to achieve their goals. I want to respect Apostle Ambe. Okay, he's writing from Amanda. Banla from the far north region says, stands for rational members of the panelists always having educative and fruitful topic and discussion. Selfish, politics egoistic in my country have corrupt almost all leaders, those in position. Imagine voting for chieftaincy in the Anglophones, or you people with those good ideas wishes to go to the street, march and rally people to talk to them ideas that is nation building in our 10 regions. You know what will happen to you people. But that same idea, if organized by a certain group of people, police will be sent to guide them. Let's leave politics and build our country. Okay? Your message is very coded. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Most of our African brothers who studied abroad and came back home with titles actually proved their worth. What I mean is most of them were the best where they studied. Their class and schoolmates back there in Europe and America are the ones actually creating the impact and creating development in their various countries. Coming back to Africa, we realize that those who hold positions of responsibility back home have a kind of complex and will not give them room to manifest what they carry. People are afraid their positions will be taken by those with titles should they be given opportunities, and as a result, build walls against them and their attempts. We have seen their proposals to solutions being rejected. Party politics has also forced some to be deviated because the government will rain hell on them, frustrating their every move or efforts to create impact until they join the party, and once they join, everything about them changes. It is also people who can't create always act as stumbling blocks to those who can. Tiku Felix is writing from Boya. Nadia, we have been talking about leadership at the summit, presidents of the republic, but we have local representatives, municipal, regional, and a host of related. Do they inspire their people?
Yeah, Mr. Kum, a leader is someone who creates an impact.
Okay.
A leader is someone who is a problem solver. A leader is someone who identifies a particular problem and solves the problem. So when we talk about the local leaders, these are people who have created impacts in the local areas, like, you know, in the municipalities, the mayors, the municipal councillors and all that. These are leaders because they have solved a problem. And this problem they solved is consistent, meaning their action is consistent. They don't stop at a certain point, but they consistently do the things. That is why they are called leaders. In Cameroon today, most leaders are not consistent leaders because they just brought out sporadically. They do something because they want to achieve something. Like we go back to our municipal councillors, our mayors. Today, someone will just go out during an election. He's going to persuade people with some food, with drinks, cajole them to vote for him. At the end of the day, he's been called a mayor. At the end of the day, he's been called a municipal councillor. But he will not deliver the job. He will not do the things which he was put in place to do. So he has failed in the concept of leadership. A leader is someone who does something that creates an impact, that develops people, that builds people, that inspires people, that solves problems, actually, Mr. Kum. Because you cannot call yourself a leader when you have no impact in the field, when you have no impact in the life of someone, when you have no impact in a particular field, when you have no impact in a particular domain. You are not a leader. You are just a title holder, as we said in the previous topic. So it is very important for us to note that African leaders have failed. And I even heard one other panelist who spoke about, our title holders that came from Europe and they came to Africa, and at the end of the day, they don't practice. Why? Because the African society or the African concept has made it in such a way that the values are not applauded, but it is the cosmetic thing of the title that is being applauded. Like someone who is an engineer, he has studied abroad, he comes to Africa, he wants to practice, he comes to Cameroon, but the society and the politics will not allow him to excel in that domain. So he will go back, and those that are cowards, because the system likes cowards people. People that cannot deliver, people that can sing to a particular ideology, people who can clap to somebody. Those are the people they will award titles and leaders, which is very dangerous,
Don't
Mr.
you
Kum.
clap for people?
Yeah, Mr. Kum, we have what we call political parties, political ideologies, and these are the things we call like political discipline. If you don't applaud to this, you cannot be given a title. You are given a title not because you merit. You are given a title not because you have worked or you've merited these things. You are given a title because you belong to a particular ideology. You're applauding a particular person, or you're trying to cover up somebody. That is our African concept, especially in Cameroon. Mr. Kum, let me elaborate a bit on our National Assembly, our MPs. On our MPs, because it is very important. These are leaders. They call themselves leaders and title holders. But actually, in Cameroon, do our MPs really do what they were called to do? Do they represent the people? Do they know their job descriptions? Do they do what they were being voted for? Are they called leaders? No. We call them hand clappers. And that is why we cannot develop in Cameroon especially. Because the concept of leadership is not awarded to those that merit. But to they that are applauding something or a system.
We respect party discipline. But you also respect the discipline of your party now.
Yeah, I respect my party's discipline, but I work for the good of Cameroonians in general.
Greetings, Mr. Liu. The problem we have in Cameroon is a structural one. In a country where the government is the biggest employer, you cannot expect innovation from the intellectual class if all they do is to run and apply for government jobs after school. The problem must be addressed from a systematic perspective. Dr. Wesley Angoni is writing from the USA. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Grace to your program. Love it. Greetings to everyone. Mary is writing from Limbe. This one says, good evening, Mr. Leo and panelists. The simple reason why more people in Africa go after titles and positions nowadays is because they want to be certificated for prestigious reasons rather than being educated and create opportunities. I really think titles should be based on achievements in your field. Ferdinand is writing from Yaoundé. Good evening to you, Fidi. Good evening. In this beautiful platform, I saw the short skit from a comedian, a long but interesting. A plane was about to take off, and the flight attendant addressed the passengers. Dear passengers, the plane is about to take off, and mind you, this is the first plane produced by some Cameroonian students from a particular university. I will not want to Thank you. Eugene is writing from Damas. Good evening, Mr. Leo. You and entire team. A leader is someone who creates a vision, motivates and inspires people to follow the vision. But in our country, I think we don't have leaders. We have but love for power and not the power of love. Abiache Cletus Abiache writing in Bifang in Widikum Momo Division. I celebrate Apostle Ambe and the rest of the panelists that there is no leadership without followers, and you can only have followers when you can positively influence them. J. Rollins, the former Ghanaian president, is an example of a good African leader. Today, we are caught up in a society where you go to a leader with a problem and then end up regretting why you took the problem to them. Pastor Mukiawa Daniel Anya is writing from Bonaberry. Good evening to you, man of God. Bravo to my media family for this special edition today on leadership. I like Apostle correlation of leadership and our today's leaders. Jumbam is writing from Boya. Ray from Kumba says, greetings to you, Mr. Kum, and your esteemed panelists. The main function of leadership is the capacity to produce more leaders, not more subjects. If after years of leadership, there is no one to replace you as a leader, then you have failed as a leader. A servant leader yearns to serve, not to lord it over people. Hence, he is always anxious to produce better leaders than himself, rather than suppress others who yearn to be like him. Ray writing from, how do we fix this situation where we groom young Cameroonians to wanting to serve? We are talking about servant leaders and not lording over people.
Yes, I think an enabling environment should be created for people to express their leadership, talent, and capacity. Mm-hmm. We live in an environment whereby youths are afraid to even join politics because they will be cracked down. Mm-hmm. Others are frustrated in the domain of business because they have no capital. Mm-hmm. I used to hear that in the days of Ahijo, he used to empower individuals, that he saw talents and skills of business in them, but not the case today anymore. We have people in different respective areas who have the skill, they have the potential, but nobody is there to empower them, to push them going to manifestation. Because leadership has to do with influence. As a matter of fact, a person who is in leadership is supposed to create an avenue for the next leaders to be born. And if the atmosphere is not conducive for other leaders to be born, it will suffocate and kill the rest of the leaders from even rising. And I think we have a system in our country or in Africa as a whole that does not permit the next generation to rise. It suffocates the next generation. It subjugates the next generation. We have good young politicians in this country, but the political atmosphere will not even allow them to express their leadership capacity in the political domain. Because why? Either they are afraid to be kidnapped, cracked down, maimed, or destroyed. And such a tense atmosphere causes abilities to die. If you go to any school, and a teacher is very, very strict in class and too tense, it frightens the pupils from even giving out what is inside of them. The atmosphere is not flexible. It's the same thing with the political atmosphere of a country. When there is no clarity, there is no serenity, there is no accessibility, it causes those who have potentials to even go down. So we can be talking that we don't have leaders. We have leaders littered almost everywhere in the country, but the atmosphere does not give them the opportunity to manifest what they have inside of them. For instance, a man like the Ukrainian president was a comedian. If a comedian today, like any of those comedians in Cameroon, stand for election, they will insult him. Say, you think anything a joke? Look at Etofi, who's a footballer. He has come out and say, it is a football na leadership. That is how it is. It looks like the leadership stuff is coined to a particular class of people with a particular age group and a particular attire. And they cannot pick you. I have said that there's nobody who's a politician. Everybody is a politician. Politics is a junction where different professionals meet to choose a leader. In Nigeria, they came on that junction and they picked a military man. They went to Malawi, they came on the junction and they picked a pastor. In Liberia, they came on the junction and they picked a footballer. So there is no politician. Everybody is a politician. Professor Muhammad Sunus in Cambridge said, everybody by virtue of birth, you are an entrepreneur. Why? The ability to create ideas and make them become manifest in any domain. So when we say everybody's a politician, politics is the coming together of different professionals to choose their leader. Simple.
Okay. Greetings to you, Mr. Liu, and all the panelists members. I'm Saleh Salman, PAP Northwest Coordinator. I'm pleased to see you guys dwelling on this devastating scramble for titles and leadership without any relevant positive contributions. This is one aspect that motivated me to join PAP due to their enthusiasm to change such lagging perceptions of leadership. From the true definition of leadership is not meant for those who are hungry, scrambling for it because they won't do so objectively. Nations like the US of Europe and Asia don't elect persons with a single criminal record as a leader, for they will misguide others one day. According to Michael Hardby, in his book titled The Top 100, a master or boss is different from a leader. He classified the top 100 leaders, and behold, over 70 were pious, God-fearing people. Islamically, according to the teachings of Prophet Muhammad, the first most influential world leader by Michael Hart, 1978, he instructed that leaders should be selected based on 1, knowledge, socioeconomic, religious leadership; 2, wisdom, knowledge application, merciful and understanding, one who listens to advice, and above all, always conscious of the rulings of God in his affairs. We are going to be ending at this juncture. There are 2 programs coming up right next. Thank you, Apostle Ambe, for coming.
Thank you, Mr. Liu. It's always a joy to be here to educate Cameroonians, Africa, and the world. God bless you.
Nadia, thank you for coming.
Thank you on this beautiful panel with a constructive topic.
No special greetings to the UPC militants?
I already greeted them in the beginning.
Okay. Thank you, Doctor, for coming.
Yeah, the pleasure is mine, and I believe very strongly that the power that be in Yaoundé are considering the person we call them the champion, the king, the chief magistracy, the head of the judiciary, and even the first legislative individual, the head of state, President Pobia, should take into himself and equally give us that meaning that 40 years in office, he has a candidate for us. In 2025, the CPDM party is supposed to present a new candidate, and we are tired of the old guys governing the corridors of Itudi. It would be very welcomed if all citizens in around the world would think that our leader equally has a servant.
Okay. We want to thank you, Dr. Richard, coming in from Kenya. Thank you for participating. Dr. Richard, thank you very much for participating today. Terrible today. Richard Difo, thank you for participating. Horrible connections. Today we want to thank you all who took time off to watch this edition of the program. Thank you to the production team, Johnson, and to you, Mancho, and to all of you who took time off to watch this edition of the program. Stay blessed. Bye-bye. Horrible connections today.